Jazakallah, everyone. Welcome to another segment of the Sanato Tijarat talks. Today's talk will be an open business and entrepreneur Q&A session. We've got a panelist of three people with us today who are entrepreneurs in their own right. So I'll just go through a brief introduction to each of them. So we've got Arslan Khan Saab, who is the CEO of K4. He brings extensive experience in physical security and modern protection strategies. He leads K4 Group, a UK-based organization delivering integrated security, medical training, CCTV workforce, and digital services. We also have with us Farhan Saidsab, who's the director at Magna Group of Industries. He leads UK sales and business development for Magna Group, a textile manufacturing conglomerate specializing in home textile products, working with major retailers, wholesalers, and private label e-commerce partners. And finally, who should be joining very shortly is Mustafa Malik Saab. He leads a premier automotive service network across London and Surrey, specializing in comprehensive accidental management, RAC approved repairs, technical excellence, and hybrid technology with a strong focus on end-to-end solutions and sustainable mobility. So thank you, first of all, thank you very much for your time to give us your time as entrepreneurs. I can definitely understand how busy you all are. So thank you for coming on today's session and answering some of the questions we'll have. We've got quite a diverse range of different areas you're all working in, so it'd be really good to get your insight. So I guess without further ado, and for everyone else, please, as we do have some questions that have already been submitted. For anyone else that does have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. I don't know if there's anything that's been missed from the introduction I've made. If you want to add anything else for Rahan or Islam Saab.
Oh, that's fine.
No, Alhamdulillah, you've done an excellent job.
No problem. Okay, so the first question we have is, I guess this is for anyone. For those looking at investing in a new business or a startup or a change of direction, what would you say about entering your particular fields? So maybe since Arslan Saab, you're in my view right now. If you could provide your response first.
Okay, so I think regarding investment, do you mean as an active, somebody that's involved, or do you mean as a silent partner? So you need to decide if it's something you're going to put your money aside to. I would always say invest in whatever you feel passionate about and you know about. If you're going to try and run a business where you're in charge, the best advice I can give you is be the subject matter expert in that given field, because people buy from people, and if you're going out and selling a business, something that you want to be, you want to make sure that you know the ins and out of it. So if it's something new, look at other people, go spend some time in those businesses, learn about what the product is, but also the service and the background about how and everything that happened, and become. So with me, my example is I started within security when I was 16, events, and then I grew within that. And I wouldn't say an expert as in an expert, but I am qualified or more qualified than my peers within my industry. And because of on the back of that, a lot of the work, so Department of Health and Culture contract me, and then I bring my business in. Monaco Formula One Grand Prix, they contract me to oversee the crowd management plans, and then I bring the company in. So for me, it's been knowing the subject matter and kind of being fully aware of what I'm selling, which is something that I'm proficient in. So I would say whatever it is, be passionate about it.
Jazakallah, thank you very much. And I guess the same question to Farhan Saab.
Jazakallah. I think textile generally is not the best field. We have a family business. We've been doing it since the 60s, so it's kind of like didn't have any other choice personally. But currently it's quite, what do you call, saturated. So it's a lot harder to enter. Margins are quite tight. But any business, you do, if you're going to do it properly, part-time, whatever, you need to give it proper time if you want that to become something proper. A lot of people, they're doing one or two jobs and they want to start a business on the side. The reality is, until you give proper time and investment to anything, it won't become anything that's going to change your life or something, significant for you. So it's a difficult decision to start a business. But on the e-commerce side, it's good. The e-commerce market is growing. There's a lot of marketplaces. There's a lot of different products, a lot of places you can buy from. So it's very diverse and a lot of people are doing it. So it is easier than other businesses, I would say, to scale up as well. As long as you're willing to put in the hours, definitely an e-commerce business is something to consider.
And Jazakallah. And I think Mustafa Saab has joined us. Mustafa Saab, are you on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, Jazakallah. So thank you. So just to repeat the question, the first question we had, it was just someone asking for general advice that when someone is looking to invest in a new business or even start up or change of direction, what would you say about entering your particular field?
Well, firstly, I'll start with I work in an automotive business. Obviously, if you've introduced before, I was listening to a bit. Farhan Saab just said that any business you do, you need to put in full effort into it, and takes a lot of time. A lot of people think of it as doing it as if they work on hourly wages, they can make this amount of money. But in business, you don't think about hourly. You need to think about you're making a whole business which will earn you more than just hourly rates. So in my business, I started back in 2020. So we started with car garages in Southwest London. And Alhamdulillah, we now have 3 branches and in the space of 6 years. In our business, when I started, I was being told that it's a dying business because of obviously electric cars coming in, no more servicing. Like there's not much margin. A lot of businesses were closing then as well. A lot of garages, but it's there's always scope in the market where you bring something new or something different. It's about how you approach sales in a business. Like we went all online. A lot of garages you see around, you won't be able to book them online or see any reviews or any customer information where a person would trust a garage. I believe there was a question around you sent earlier about trusting garages in repairing their cars. You need to have a good outlook, just how these big names like Halfords or QuickFit have. To enter the business, you need to have good outlook of customer satisfaction and good sales side where you can approach everyone through social media and make an image which people can approach you easily and call in or online. Basically, now I started business 6 years ago, and few months we're not making any profit, but you need to put in hard work, and that's how you achieve. Now we're at a point where we can easily open another garage and expand. So you think about starting a business and then stabilizing and then expansion. So I think our business is also difficult to get in, but it's the way you approach each business. You need to have the right tactic to have sales and customer satisfaction.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Mustafa Saab. I think the next question is it's been directed at you, Farhan Saab, but I think it's quite an interesting one for everyone to answer. So maybe just very quickly, we've been asked, how have you found approaching big retailers to take orders from you, or even trying to arrange a meeting to get your foot in the door? Any tips you can give on those who want to get into e-commerce or get orders from big players like Tesco, B&Q, M&S, Sainsbury's, etc.?
Shall I answer?
Yeah, please.
So we can split the question into two parts, right? One is about retailers, so established supermarkets like Tesco you've mentioned, and then one is about e-commerce, so two completely different markets. So basically, in terms of retailers, especially in the UK, it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time. But another big thing is it depends what you're selling. So if it's like a trendy product, you have a contract to sell something, you have the rights, that's a completely different story. But in my field, in textiles, there's a lot of competition. And even in Pakistan, there's, hundreds of mills selling the exact same kind of thing, which we are also trying to market. So as a base point, you need, all the relevant certificates, audits, these kinds of things. But that's the thing, retailers, they don't just buy from anyone. It's not like you can knock on the door and they'll give you a contract, in our field at least. You need to have, they'd like to buy direct from manufacturers, so you need to have a factory, you need to have all of the relevant knowledge, the teams, and they know who the factories are, who the big people are. So retail is very difficult, but in terms of if you have these things, even then it's not easy. It's just knocking on the door constantly, cold calls, emails. We have trade shows, we go to those. Different companies, retailers, they have different buying protocols. So you can go to their website. Some of them allow direct contact, some of them allow open meetings. So every retailer is different. But it might be in certain products, it might be easier to get in. In February, there's a big home show happening. It's called Spring Fair. There's two basically in the NEC in Birmingham. There's two shows that happen. One is Spring Fair and one is Autumn Fair. And in terms of the home sector, a lot of small manufacturers, medium manufacturers, retailers, they have stalls there, they're exhibiting there. So it's worth looking into that, going there and actually meeting, the buyers, the sellers, to learn more about whatever product and whatever buyers there are, and then you can make a better decision. In terms of e-commerce, to build a market there, first of all, you need to decide what product you're going to use. There's different tools, like Helium 10, Jungle Scout. Depends where you're going to sell, if it's Amazon, eBay. And then what you're going to sell is very important. So you can use those tools to research which products have big markets, which products have growing markets. You need to learn how to use those tools. So you can go on YouTube, you can watch videos, you can pay for a course. There's many course providers, and you need these knowledge, not this knowledge, if you're going to do this yourself. Second thing is, if you have a bit of money to invest, what you can do is there's websites like Fiverr. You can find, qualified consultants or partners who you can pay on a project basis, who have the expertise and know-how. They know how to do the listings, how to find the products, how to sell them on Amazon or whatever channel. And you can work with them, learn yourself, work with an expert, get the skills, and then maybe do it yourself or build your own team. That's kind of the roadmap.
Jazakallah, thank you very much. I think that's covered off another question we had where someone was asking about their eBay store. I think you've gone into explaining what sort of to look at to get identified trends and good products, and then also on how to upload successful listings. So Jazakallah for that. For Mustafa Saab, there's a question. So someone's asked about how what would you do differently if you were to start again? How have you overcome the fact that no one really trusts mechanics? I know you covered this slightly. And how do you build a loyal customer base? Also, so this person doesn't have much mechanical background. So how have you found dealing with mechanics yourself? And how can you ensure that they have the right skills which keep the business running?
So I myself am not a mechanic. So I run the business, but I've never worked on the cars. Then on and off, I've worked on cars, but not as a full time. When I started a business, I was not a mechanic. I started as a business and not as working in the business. When you're in a management role in a business, you need to know who you're hiring, and you need to check each skills and what their skills can profit you on. So like we mainly focused on quick and small jobs, which doesn't require specialist labor. Now, the specialist labor mechanics, but they have their own workshops and they will do in their own workshops. But like our model is similar to Halfords and Quick Fit, where they'll do small jobs, tires, MOT, servicing, repairs, minor repairs, and that's about it. You wouldn't require a specialist mechanic to work on those cars. Um, these kind of labor you can find cheaper as well, and also they are ready available. Not similar to how a specialist one would be. If you want to get an engine work done, has to be going to a specialist mechanic. So our aim was to uh, keep the profitability high and keep the volumes high with customers. Your question was in the first 90 days, what I would do differently.
Yeah. Would there any big pitfall that you maybe came across? Maybe you can name if there's any one or two that you can think of that you experienced this issue. If you would go back, how would you have changed that?
Alhamdulillah, I haven't yet faced any big issues because when we do business, we make sure we do our risk analysis. That's the first point when you're doing business. You have to do risk analysis of the worst case scenario of what if this happens. So you always have a backup of what if this happens. So you know that if that happens, you can cover it and not take up the loss. In the first 90 days, if you ask me if I would change anything, I would not change anything in my first 90 days. I think our approach from having zero background myself on mechanics, running a business in 6 years for 3 garages, it's I think it's a big thing, and I've not seen a single person doing it out there with no mechanic qualification. Now, when I started, obviously you have to go hands-on and learn yourself, but not day in, day out. You have to know how things work. So I had certifications, courses to know how things work and how to repair cars. So I'm not being blackmailed by labor. So you need to have knowledge of what's happening in your business, even if you're not doing it hands-on, but you need to know how to manage it, because being an entrepreneur and doing business, it's about how you manage stuff rather than doing it yourself.
I think that last point on you doing your, I guess, your self-certification to make sure that you have the right experience, to make sure you can keep your workers honest as well. It's a very good point. And maybe again, for anyone who I know, Aslan and Farhan Sab, you mentioned something overseas, so maybe this might be a question for you. So we have an individual who has involved in agriculture, poultry, livestock, and crops overseas. Have you had any experience in raising funds if the main, I guess, part of your business is overseas? So maybe a Pakistani textile mill or anything else line, if you outsource anything to Pakistan in specifically financing that part of the operations. Maybe Aslan Sab, if you want to go first, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, Jazakallah. Okay, so you'll have to. So funding options. There's lots and lots of funding options. You got private investments, or you got banks, or you got secondary banks. You've got everything from invoice factoring to So there's lots of ways to raise capital. Regarding raising capital for another business in another country, so how our setup is, K4 Global is a non-UK based entity, and K4 Group is a UK based entity, and then there are several other businesses under the group umbrella. And again, how you showcase that business. So our K4 Global, which is based in Karachi, Pakistan, has all the certifications that are required to operate to the standard or the British standards that are UK based. So 7499, which is static guarding, or 7858. But it doesn't. Yeah, the accreditation, but you have to be accredited, and I can leverage that with a bank, with a bank manager or private fund to say, look, this is what the product is, or this is what why we have this system outside. This is what we're delivering within the UK. So obviously, if you're operating within the UK, you will have to register a company's house. You will have to have a business within the UK to operate as a business in the UK. If you're bringing in services or items or products from outside, you can do that very easily, and you can leverage what's here with what's there together. But you'll have to make your business plan. You'll have to make your business case. But there are lots and lots of different funding options, mainstream and non-mainstream as well. And then you can look at things like private investments as well. If you don't go down that road.
Jazakallah, Arslan Sahab. I think what you've said about there having, I guess, a clear business plan, because I understand from my experience as well. I think it's very easy for someone just to go up to and ask for a loan, but I think the hard work is then building out that business plan and creating a justification for why you need that loan, so you can show evidence that you have something in place which whoever you're getting loan from can rely on. Just in the interest of time, we've got quite a few questions that have come in the chat. Farhan Sahab, I don't know if given that you've got the textile mill in Pakistan, if there's any more you can say on the financing options. Otherwise, we could move on to the questions that have come through the chat. But I'll let you answer if you have anything to say.
I'll just give a quick overview. Basically, it depends very much which country your farm is located in. If you own that farm, how the farm is linked to, I assume, your UK company. But in terms of having a Pakistani textile facility, there are Pakistani banks based in the UK. So if you deal with the same bank in Pakistan, you can find out if that bank has a branch here, like Habib Bank, UBL, these kinds of banks. They have branches here. So it makes it easier for them because they already have an interest in, the overseas country. Even if it's not the same bank, if it's a Pakistani, background bank, it's easier for them to kind of do those verifications and then, approve funding. Second thing is obviously you should speak to a chartered accountant, a proper consultant, and they can probably guide you better based on what your field is and what your requirements are, how much funding you need as well, because that's gonna, affect what kind of funding you can get as well.
Jazakallah Farhan Saab. There was one more question that came in before the through the online before it came to the chat. Or just maybe if each of you can very briefly just go through your top tip that you have found when it comes for sales. A top tip that each of you can maybe just present. So Farhan Saab, if you want to go first, if you can. And the other two can think about it while Farhan Saab's answering.
I don't get time to think about it. I think it's a very general question, but a good thing is, just take your time, know your product, and don't be greedy, I think.
Jazakallah. Arslan Saab, any top tip for sales you could think of?
So I think depending on what it is, there are different procurement processes. So if you're dealing with tier one suppliers or your massive businesses, government sector, you have procurement processes. It's not just knock on the door. Tenders, procurements, bids. So understand that piece. The other thing is people are people and people buy from people. So don't be afraid to knock on those doors and hassle people and excuse the terminology, like the dog with a bone. So if you want to make that sale, make a connection, hassle them because everybody else is, and people that are sitting in those positions, they're used to being contacted out of the blue. They're used to having people ring them and email them, but 99% of the time, because they're used to it, they'll ignore it. So you need to stand out and turn up. And, even my team, one of the best salespeople, he would go into random people's offices and stuff. He'll find them or stalk them on LinkedIn, message them, and he'll turn up to their office, and he's like, "Oh, I bought you chocolates, I bought this," he'll bring food, and he'll make that link. And he'll, especially around the construction side, he does a lot on. But yeah, so don't be afraid, because people are people, and they're exactly the same as you and me. So turn up and knock on those doors. But understand that if it's a procurement process, it's not going to help you much. But yeah, so just understand who you're selling to.
Jazakallah Salam Saab. Mustafa Saab, anything further to add? Any top tip you have when it comes to sales?
Further to add to Aslan Saab, like it depends what type of business you are in. If it's B2B, B2C, it all depends. Now, B2C, I'm in B2C, and it involves mainly in facing customers directly and sales. So, in my opinion, customer satisfaction is on top, and they say customer is always right. That is actually true. If you make the customer think they are right, they will come back to you and they will buy off you again. So a top sales tip is always uh, the customer should always feel comfortable and should be satisfied with your service. Only then he'll come back. Basically, for businesses, you need recurring sales. That's how businesses nowadays work. If I get a customer in and he's not going to come back in again, I've paid for a lead which is not going to come back, and it's a waste of my marketing budget and loss of income as well. So sales in B2C is customer service is top priority.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much. We've had quite a few questions in the chat since the session starts, and what I'll do is maybe I'll direct these questions at each of you in equally, and only one person can ask them, unless someone has a very urgent desire to also add something into it. Then please feel free to. So I'll do it in order I can see you on my screen. So for Han Saab, we've had a question about someone who's looking to start a job, who's obviously come from a 9-to-5 background. What advice you'd say to get them started? Are there any sectors you see growing in the next few years? Anything you can say on that?
So basically, if you're working 9 to 5, I mean, it depends how much you have saved up. I wouldn't say to just drop that and jump into a business. Probably do your research, find something, once again, that maybe you have a passion for, something you enjoy. If there's a product or a kind of field you like, you can pick a product from that field, possibly sell it online. If it's a service, it's a different story. But something, you're interested in, or something you can, gain more knowledge, you're technical in, start giving set some time, like, every day, 2 hours, I'm going to give to this business, I'm going to do research, I'm going to learn. Once you've gathered enough knowledge, then whatever you need to do to start that business. So start small. Once you start seeing the results, then start putting more time in. And then once you think, it's time to take a leap, you'll know when it's time to take that leap, because you'll know this isn't growing until I put more time in. Maybe find, somebody with a common interest, a business partner who you can trust. I mean, that can be good or bad. So that's another, risk decision you have to take. But start small, giving time, and then, when it's time, then take that leap, basically.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much. Aslan Saab, I think this will be an interesting question. What's been your most expensive mistake, and what did it teach you?
Most important mistake was doing some work without actually having a contract in place. So it was one of the things we did in the beginning, where we were so excited to get the work, we started to run with it before doing the full contractual obligation. It cost around 170,000 of kind of unpaid invoices. So yeah, due diligence and making sure the paperwork is correct before you step in.
No, Jazakallah. I think that's a very valid point, especially for someone first starting. Before you maybe jump into it, take your time and have a look at things before.
That's it. We were so excited to work with a big reputable company, and then we kind of forgot, because we wanted to impress them and kind of go, you're bigger than us, we want to work with you, without the actual kind of realization that they're the same people like us. So they had a point and they screwed us.
Okay. Jazakallah. So there are a couple of questions which I think I'll skip through. So I know someone's asked about at what point did you stop doing everything and start paying others. I think that's going to be very generic depending on the business and depending who's going to do that. So I'll skip that for now. Someone also asked about if someone wants to start up the business tomorrow, how much minimum capital would you say is required in this day and age? And I think that differs from your business that you're looking into. maybe more of an idea of would you say how I would position this to Mustafa Saab is, I guess, if you're looking to start up a business, what things would you factor in to work out how much capital is required?
So when I started business, I started with £5,000. That's all I started. That was my capital when I put in. And you can start even lower than this. Like Aslan said earlier, you can find different financing banks and companies, and that's what we approached. We took a bigger risk, and we approached finance companies on funding our equipment and our machinery, so we can stand and start a business. Now, obviously, that comes in saying that you already have a good credit history, because no finance will come out to you and give you finance if you're not good on paying back credit. But that comes with a risk that you have to pay that money back. Now, the business will be in a crunch in the time where you have to pay those debt payments, but after those debt payments, it's given you a boost where you started with less capital and with banks' money, and it's a running business after a few years. So you can start any business with as low capital as possible, but you need to have an idea and risk management where you know that this idea will excel and I can profit by paying off my finance company as well and getting a profit out of it yourself at the end of the day.
Jazakallah, Mustafa Saab. So I think, yeah, once again, I think it's all good and well having the money, but the background into it and the conducting the research in it, I think is again another hard part, which I think a lot of people maybe trip over or don't spend too much time doing. There is a question that's asked about how did you raise the capital to start your business? But I think we, Farhan and Salam Saab, did cover that. I think Mustafa Saab, you chimed in on as well when we were speaking about the financing options that are available. So I will miss that now, just in the interest of time, and go on to one. So someone's asked any advice for someone selling African food and drinks ingredients that will be coming from Africa. I'm assuming they're talking about in the UK. So I guess, Farhan Saab, or if anyone else has, again, any maybe specific answers to this, but anyone advice for someone importing goods, food and drinks from Africa and selling them in the UK?
I think if you have a specific product, obviously there's specific shops that sell these kinds of things, and many of these shops you can approach directly. And if you make a list of, say, 20 shops or something, you go to these shops, you have to travel, you have to put time in, and you can ask them where they buy from, and potentially you can get a contact of who the wholesaler is, and then maybe you can get a bigger contract. So you have to, once again, knock on doors, see where it's selling, go to them directly, tell them I have this product. Many shops operate a policy where they'll be like, okay, give us X amount of stock. If it sells, it's fine. Otherwise, you can take it back up after 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. And that way you can start getting exposure. Online exposure is also good, but then it depends if you're bringing it under your own brand or if it's already a registered brand, like a wholesale product, then it's possible that some people are already buying it. So you can start selling it quicker, but then the margins in that are normally lower. So that's my kind of take.
Jazakallah. I don't know if Aslan Saab or Mustafa Saab, you have any maybe quick things to mention if you're importing in any goods from overseas and selling them in the UK.
I'll just say one quick point is anything that you bring from outside the UK, just make sure it meets the standards. That you don't get stuck with it, because once you bought it in, if it doesn't meet the standards, you won't be able to offload it. There are distributors, so it depends again what food product it is. Distributors, exhibitions, events. So there's lots of African food. There's a lot of African cultural events. Again, scale, I don't know, if you're starting small, you can get a stand, you can get a unit at a festival, so you can use those sites. Or if you've got bigger import distributor links, there's lots of distributors, they will take product off you, sell it, and the sale and no return piece, just go and speak to shopkeepers and get your, again, depends on how much you're bringing in, but yeah.
Jazakallah. For answer, there is another question that's directed at you, given your the business you're involved in. Someone's asking you if people, I guess, import clothes from India or Pakistan to sell in the UK, is any specific advice for them and how they can maybe expand the business?
Once again, for that kind of market, normally over here, what people are selling are stitched clothes. So there's different markets, in Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, East London, Southall. You have to go, these kinds of places have wholesale markets. So you can go there if you already have the goods, you have a catalog, you can go and market to those people. You can ask them where they buy from. Me personally, I've done this as well. Many people give you target prices, they take designs from you. You can find, there's also, if you go to Tooting or other places in Manchester, wherever, there's so many shops. And a lot of these shops, they're buying from the same people or a couple of different people. So then you can possibly, talk to them. It depends what scale you're doing it on. If it's a smaller scale at these markets, like as Lance have mentioned, you could get a stand, or that could be a place to start, or you could ask these shops to keep your stock. You could sell it to them. Other thing is online. So online is a bit on Amazon, probably this is a bit harder because there's new designs on Amazon. You need to build a listing, so it takes longer. So eBay and WhatsApp or Instagram would be much better where you do targeted marketing. So you can pick areas where there's more, Asian people living, Asian community, and you can target your ads based on location, Google Ads, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and that way you can get more clicks and hopefully sales. So you can have your website can be linked there. A lot of people like to buy through WhatsApp, Asian clothes, so a WhatsApp shop would be good as well.
Jazakallah, thank you very much. And for Mustafa Saab, someone's asked a question: what does it take to be a subcontractor for a particular business in the UK? I guess is this achievable as a startup, or would you think you need some to build up, I guess, a reputation before you become a subcontractor?
Well, to be a subcontractor, I think again the first thing is you need to have a good business outlook. Your if you're marketing online, your online reviews should be good enough for someone to approach you to be a subcontractor. Now it could, I mean, we don't do a lot of subcontract work, but it's I believe it's mainly networking and again speaking with big companies because they do subcontract a lot of work to different small companies. You could approach them and get any contracts off them which you can work on. I think that's all I can say on those. Like I said, we don't do a lot of subcontract work.
Jazakallah. I don't know, Farhan Sab or Salam Sab, if there's anything you can add to that. Salam Sab, yes, please go ahead.
So just on a previous note as well, my wife recently was buying a lot of shalwar kameez from TikTok. So there we go. I don't know if that's up and coming. Regarding subcontracting, compliances. So for us, the compliances piece, the staffing, because again, our product is the staff, HMRC compliance, payroll compliance, certification, approved contractors. So if you are going subcontracting, just make sure that you're above board, because the biggest fear is, and this is again one of the biggest fears for tier one suppliers, anybody you subcontract a service or a product to, if it's not compliant, the main company is responsible. So if I use a subcontractor and they don't pay the VAT bill, they don't pay the staff on payroll, my business will be liable for not doing the due diligence, and then we'll get stuck with the bill, even though we paid the subcontractor. So as long as you can evidence that you're above board on everything, then I think that's half the battle.
Jazakallah, thank you much. I think yeah, it's very important. I think there's as the suppliers, I guess also the larger companies have supply due diligence they need to perform. So you need to meet their requirement before they're able to do anything with you. So I think it's a very important one that you've mentioned there. Someone has asked. I think this is an individual who has an online tuition business, and she's asked, "How can I increase my exposure online? I have a tuition center for the last 20 years, and in the last 5 years, online having difficulty with advertising. I don't know if any of you have a specific, I guess, with marketing experience or anything you can advise on that one."
I can offer some advice.
Yes, please, from yourself.
It doesn't have to be, social media marketing, anything at all. If you need, support, it's always best to get in touch with an expert who can do it right the first time rather than struggling and, wasting time and money and energy. If you pay a bit more, not too much more, but a bit more, you would get good results, and it's always worth trying. So what I would suggest is find somebody, a good social media marketer expert. You can use Fiverr, you can go online, project basis, you can get multiple quotes, whatever works for you, whatever you require, whatever channels you want to build. You will find people who've already done this with, it doesn't matter if it's a driving school, shop, clothing business, whatever it is, it's already been done. 99% of these things, in my experience. So you can find somebody who's an expert for that, and they'll build you a strategy and they'll execute it, and you will most definitely get results, inshallah.
Just of that, sorry, Yale.com have recently launched a product for small businesses, and they will do everything for you. If it's an online tuition, all the algorithm between Google, Bing, and all the platforms, and I think it is at a nominal fee, so maybe worth looking at that new piece that they've launched. Previously, we used Yale, and it used to be good before we had our own team.
That's great. Thank you, Zagla. So yeah, that's a good resource for this person. Mustafa Sab, I don't know if you've had any challenges when it's come to marketing and how you've possibly come over those challenges or lessons you've learned from these.
I think the biggest marketing places at the moment are online. Like Osama I just said, buying on TikTok. So a lot of people they post videos on TikTok, Instagram, social media, and they go viral. It's about consistency. Well, a lot of people might know all these YouTubers. Obviously, when they first started, there was no views on them. If you look at Khan Academy, similar to a tuition, they started making videos online on YouTube and posting them, and that's how they got famous. It was a tuition, and they taught people online, and they approached the social media side to expand their business. I think that's a way where you can cater a lot of market for things which you can do remotely. Tuition you can also teach remotely. So if a teacher is in Birmingham, they can also teach someone in London. So if they post anything online on Instagram or TikTok, or any videos solving math problems or anything, and it goes viral, people would approach them, get tuition, and it would expand that business side.
Jazakallah. There's a question here which is quite specific, but I'll read it as it is, and then I'll try to phrase it in a more general way to help you answer it. So someone's asked, if you were starting today with a strong technical ambition in networking and systems and wanted to build an independent consultancy rather than chase a corporate ladder, how would you structure your first year? So I guess, well, first of all, if anyone can answer it as is, that's great. Otherwise, maybe we can sort of phrase this in terms of where you are trying to chase, in a specific business line. What's your advice to sort of drive yourself up further rather than go through as a subcontractor, for instance? How would you drive your own business up right to the top rather than having to rely on someone else, maybe?
Should I answer that?
Yes.
So because of the CCTV arm, so you talk about networking, there's a lot of businesses, even law firms, that are still upgrading their systems from a physical server to cloud-based servers. Every time somebody goes into a new premises, new networks get installed. I think, yeah, it's to reach out to your potential customer base. It's going to be online. I think if you look at doing PPC campaigns, paid per click campaign, with your specific item that what you want to specialize in, and people looking for that service will automatically come to you, because it is a specialist thing, and finding somebody who's very good with networking and systems. Yeah, because they're always updating. So when we go sometimes to install CCTV cameras, their system may not be compliant or it's old. And then we will advise them to kind of update the network system, and then they go out and look in the market. So yeah, there's always a change, and especially when people are moving offices. So yeah, there was a big push from I can't remember, one of the serviced offices, when Hikvision became a thing where people wanted it out of their offices, and they wanted Access, which is a UK brand, because Hikvision was the whole China issue. WeWork, that's it. It was WeWork, and we changed a lot of their cameras up and down the country because, yeah, and part of that, they had network specialists doing all sorts to make sure that they were protected. So, I'll say look at PPC campaigns.
That's fine. And maybe one Mustafa Saab, if you can maybe quickly say this. I mean, let's say you have if you were to go back and then you decided to work for yourself as a mechanic, you're working there. So what advice would you have to someone like that who is maybe working in a mechanic to then sort of to try to develop their own garage or create their own garage? What are the steps you would take to do that?
Well, just how I did, you could start your own garage from day one as well, and not work, and you can hire a mechanic. But people don't take that risk because it comes with a cost. But what people don't usually understand is, if you're paying someone to do some work, your main aim is to get sales in so you can pay him off and get profit as well. So a lot of people who are and I know people who are mechanics, and they're still working as mechanics since the past 10 years, and they've not hired anyone to do their work so they can go towards expansion and add more employees. Is because they have trust issues in employing people and paying them, and they don't have enough confidence in them to actually get sales in, because I think the main thing to cater being an entrepreneur is your time is very important. If you know you can make a good business, you need to be spending time in strategic decisions rather than doing manual labor. So if you have a good idea and you're strategic into it, you need to focus into that, hire someone else to do the manual job, and expand that side. A lot of people don't have, again, I said, the willingness to actually employ someone and pay them and go on the side and use their time to expand, because it's a huge risk for them.
I think I agree, and I think maybe what I would say is that it's a very good response, and it's almost like when you're paying someone, it's almost like an investment into yourself because, as you say, it frees you up from the day-to-day task to then look into how you can then expand your business. So no, that's a very important point. I hope that's answered the question, and you've partially answered this. Someone has asked how difficult or easy is it to start a mobile garage, and which you've said that it can be done. Any very quickly, any certification or qualifications needed in order to start a garage?
There is certification and qualifications. You can go on this website like IMI. There's courses there you can do. There's garage manager courses. There's a technician courses, mechanic courses, and there's RMI, and there's LQQ Academy as well. So there's different academies who teach these courses for you to know that how the business actually works, and what you need to look at in garage side.
Jazakallah. I know this question has already been answered by Aslan Sab and Mustafa Sab, but it's coming again. Maybe I'll give Farhan Sab a chance at it. Is any expensive mistake you made and how you went about rectifying it? Farhan Sab, anything to add there?
Too many mistakes.
Any one that sticks out to your mind that you can really remember?
I'll give a general answer if that's okay, because the specifics are they're very specific. But in terms of, look, whenever a mistake, it can either be something that develops or something that happens, spontaneously. So in our business, we get certain contracts, we have to deliver goods. There's lead times of, 60, 90, 120 days. There's shipping intervals of 30, 60, 90 days. So order delays is a big thing that can happen. And sometimes you have, certain seasonal products. Like in winter, you have some heavy qualities that have to ship before the Christmas season. And if they don't ship on time, then you have to send them by air. But it depends, who is responsible. So we were dealing with a wholesaler who was supplying, a big UK retailer. It was a seasonal product for the winter season. So we had ordered some bulk of the fabrics, containers and containers from China. They came through, but we were doing this product for the first time. So in, the cutting, stitching kind of process, we learned a lot of new things. It was a lot slower to make, and then we needed more fabric than what we had ordered. So we were in constant communication because we have a very, good relationship with this wholesaler. We've been doing business with them for many, many years. We have a huge business with them, alhamdulillah. But we constantly were in communication with them. So first thing is, always be open and honest. If a mistake is, developing, if you're making something, providing a service, if something is going right or wrong, which direction is going in. So as soon as you know something is going out of your hand, always have that relationship with your customers that they can trust you. So you tell them, look, this is happening. We're doing everything we can, so they know, that you're not being cheeky or anything. But so we did give them the information, but they had a conversation with the retailer. Then the retailer suddenly, decided, no, this is too late. The date was brought back 3 weeks. We were on the back foot. We had delivered most of the stock, but then about 20, 30% of that order had to go by air, which was a huge cost. Almost 30% of the total order value was the cost of the air freight. So we lost a lot of money in that, but because we had that open understanding, our wholesaler, he covered half of the cost, we covered half of the cost. So the business is still alive, which is the main thing. With any other kind of customer, if there isn't honesty, if you're hiding things or somebody's hiding things, that customer will die and you will not do business again. The really big, I would say it was a mistake, but the big success is that customer is still alive, and we've got more contracts, alhamdulillah. We're growing with them, with that same retailer even, because we were willing to invest in our mistake, rectify that mistake. You know, the cost we paid for air freight, we don't consider it like a loss, we consider it an investment. And that's the only way we can continue to go do business.
Jazakallah, Pransa. We have had another question come in, but unfortunately, we are out of time. I hope everyone has answered on the poll. If you haven't, please can you pop in your responses to take you a few seconds to do. Just once again, a really big thank you to our panelists, Mustafa Malik Saab, Farhan Said Saab, Arslan Khan Saab, for taking out the time. I wish you the success in your businesses. I hope everyone has taken away some very valid points to implement into themselves, and those who are looking to start something now have the answers or the confidence to maybe start in the right direction. This will be saved and the meeting, so it's been recorded. So feel free to review again if you've missed anything. I know there were some key points that you mentioned in terms of companies you can use. But no, Jazakallah everyone for your time. Thank you. And for those who have listened and to yourselves once again. So yeah, Jazakallah.
Thank you.
And we'll end it there. Assalamu alaikum.
Mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi
Jazakallah.
wabarakatuh.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.